even know, if this is our intro music. This came on the podcast machine that I got. Is this a stock noise or someone else's? I don't know. We'll find out.
Stephen R. Covey once said, "Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply." We have something to say worth listening to. This is Real Talk. Real Talk. The podcast. Telling the story and lessons learned of industry leaders, entrepreneurs, professional athletes, and the movers and shakers of the business world. Have you been told no? Have you been told that you can't do it? Have you been told that you'll never get to the next level? That noise. Yeah, we said it. We're telling you you can do it, and you can get to the next level. If others have done it, so can you. Real Talk. This is Real Talk, the podcast. And this is your host, Mason.
Yo, what is going on, world? It is Mason coming back at you guys with another episode of Real Talk. Today, we have a guest who helps business owners to stop working in their business so they can start working on their business. With over 12 years of experience in one of the fastest growing job sectors worldwide, virtual assistants, she's the president of Virtual Assistant USA, the author of 2 books, Inspired Entrepreneurs and How to Wheel and Deal in High Heels. Here to answer all of our wildest questions about virtual assistants and getting the job done, please welcome Danielle Cuomo. Danielle, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well, so let's kind of address the elephant in the room here. Virtual assistants, that's what you do. That's your thing. So kind of tell us a little bit about your background, how you got involved in that, and kind of where your primary focus is today, especially with the crazy job market that's out there and I would say the lack of supply.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got started 13 years ago, coming from an IT consulting background, and that was really just the start of the virtual assistant industry. Was really the very beginning of the industry. At the time, 13 years ago, it was also the time of the recession. And so what seemed like a difficult time to start a business was actually a blessing in disguise for me, because while the economy was turning down, there were still companies that still needed support. They still needed workers in their business, but maybe they didn't want to bring someone on full time. They didn't want to deal with the burden of paying that. Maybe they didn't have it in the budget. And that's where virtual assistants came in. So it was actually a great time to start a business. And 13 years later, I have a pretty large team of virtual assistants. They're all my full-time employees. And we work with our clients on an on-demand basis. So whenever they need us, as they need us, as much or as little time as they need, we provide the support for them.
So everyone is like, they work for you directly?
Yes, they're my full-time employees, so I take care of their salary, their benefits, paid time off, all of that.
Now, do they work in-house under you?
They work from their own homes.
Okay.
They work remotely. They work with our equipment, and that's just for security reasons and quality reasons as well. And so we've always worked remotely, even pre-pandemic. And so for us, when the world sort of shut down and people were scrambling to get set up remotely, that was really, business as usual for us.
Now, did you see a surge in your business because of all that?
We did, actually. And even though obviously the pandemic has been an incredibly unfortunate situation, for most people, it's actually been beneficial for our business because we are able to provide short-term gap assistance. We're able to provide more affordable assistance because clients aren't worried about paying things like payroll taxes, insurance, vacations, holidays, that sort of thing. And so it's really a natural choice for them to move to virtual assistant work. And because, again, we're already set up to work remotely, and that's what we do. So that's been very helpful as well for us.
So in terms of virtual assistants and like the services you offer and what your employees can do, like do different people specialize in different things? Does everyone kind of do everything? How does that work?
Yeah, so we found that the best way to do it is that each VA has a different specialization area. So in my experience, if someone is trying to be a jack of all trades, a Jane of all trades, if you will, that doesn't always work because they're not becoming an expert in any particular area. They're just dabbling in many different areas. So we don't want someone in my company, in the way that we do it, we don't want someone that's doing social media to also be dabbling in bookkeeping or, executive admin work or that sort of thing. We want them to, if they're doing social media, we want them to focus solely on social media, stay abreast of all the best practices, changes, things like that are happening. And then if the client needs bookkeeping, for example, then they would work with one of our VAs on the team that specializes in bookkeeping. And so the client has a team approach, but for our individual VAs, we like them to specialize in one particular area.
So, I'm really new to the VA world, so please don't mind my ignorance.
Not at all.
So, what level of competency and execution can you expect? So for instance, let's say social media. I hate doing social media stuff. I hate I can provide a well of content with pictures and and videos and everything like that. Could I be like, hey Danielle, could you guys take care of getting everything posted out? I want to post it out this frequently. Everything's real general, real evergreen. Here's a well of content that I have. I want 2 posts a day for the next month. Could you guys do that and respond to all my comments?
Yes, exactly. So that's exactly what a client will do. And then, of course, we do the posting, but we go beyond that and work with our clients to create a strategic plan. If engagement is your goal, which is the goal for most people, we will respond to those comments and in a way that's going to start conversations and just generate the engagement around your brand. And then to answer your previous question, and that's a really important thing to ask when you're hiring a virtual assistant is the experience level that the virtual assistant has. So at my company, I only hire VAs that have a minimum of 10 years of experience in their fields. So if they're bookkeepers, they've been doing bookkeeping for at least 10 years. And, I found that has been really beneficial for me because they can hit the ground running. There's not a lot of time for ramp up with the clients. And so if you're a potential client and you're looking at hiring virtual assistants, that's a really important question to ask to understand the experience level there. And I would think you'd want to look for anything over 5 years. It doesn't have to be 10 years, but something over 5 years, I think, puts you in a solid place.
Now, okay, so using the example from before where I asked you to handle my social media and whatnot, will I be assigned the same rep? Or will it be a different VA? Will I have the same VA, or will that VA change based on availability within their work schedule, or how does that work?
Yes. So in our company, you receive the same VA all the time. So that's your dedicated VA is what we call it. You would work with the same VA day in and day out. And that's, really what helps establish the relationship. You get in a good rhythm together. They understand how you work. And it can just be a more, efficient, effective relationship. That is really important, I think, to have a dedicated VA and to always have the same VA. So another thing to ask when you are looking at hiring a virtual assistant company is if you would be assigned to the same person all the time.
Yeah, I would think that's huge especially if you have certain ways that you want things done. And like you said, kind of establishing a rhythm.
Yes.
I'm sure it's so nice just to know that, hey, this person's done this task 100 times for me. I know when I ask them to do it again, it'll be done that way.
Exactly. They get to know you and the nuances of how you like things done, and it's really helpful.
So, are there any services necessarily that you don't offer? Or if you don't, do you go and source out those VAs who can accommodate those requests? Say, I'm thinking for instance, I have a Shopify store. If I need someone to do some detailed Shopify work, do you have someone in-house who does that, or would you go and source that?
Yeah, so we would go in-house for that. Shopify is a very common e-commerce platform for our clients. We have a really large team, so chances are it's a platform that we've used that we have a team member that's an expert in. As far as services, I always say like the only thing we can't do is go get your coffee for you, because really any other service for bookkeeping to social media, web, even email inbox management, that can all be done remotely.
And then as far as communicating with your VA, is that done email or Skype or however you want to do it, over the phone? How do you guys handle that?
Yeah, so in my company specifically, it's however you wish to communicate. So most clients will use a combination of email, text message. I do think video calls are great to do, at least at a regular cadence. Again, just to get to know each other and have that connection. But for quick tasks and handoffs and details, email, text message, phone, I think that all works great.
Now, where do you see the biggest impact that virtual assistants typically have in businesses? Because your tagline is, we want to see small business owners start working on their business instead of like in their business. So where do you typically see the greatest value that your VAs bring?
Yeah. So I will often tell my clients or new clients that when it comes to doing tasks, that just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should be doing something that's in your area of expertise. So for example, with social media or social media graphics, certainly you can make a social media post, but it doesn't mean that that's in your genius zone. That's something you should be doing because maybe a VA knows more about how to evaluate the analytics and know what a good time for you to post for your audience is. They know how to reword the post so that you get engagement, which is really important. They know if you should be doing it organically or do a paid post and sort of all of those things. So when I tell clients that there's a huge amount of tasks that typically they're doing themselves, just because they can, but it doesn't mean that they're being optimized, that they're doing them the most efficient way, the cheapest way, the fastest way, the best way to do it. And so I think that's where a VA really adds value, is just bringing that expertise into a client's business, sort of filling in those gaps.
Do you guys have like a number one, how do I say this? What's your number one department VAs that people request? Is it social media? Is it bookkeeping? What's that?
I would say at the outset, it's definitely email inbox management. So clients, most of them are entrepreneurs, and they are typically drowning in emails. And they're spending a lot of time in their inboxes every day and not getting things done, like sales calls, strategically planning on growing the business, that sort of thing. And so that's something that they can have a VA handle their email management for them, handle responses, that sort of thing. I would say that's the biggest task that we handle for clients. And then typically as we're working with someone for a while longer, then they start to think about other things like social media. Maybe they want to do videos. Maybe they want to start a podcast, that sort of thing.
So like in regards to like the email response, right? How do they know what to respond to? What do they do if they have questions? Like that sort of a thing. Is it something that, I guess, again, having a dedicated VA that they kind of get used to those things and they start to know those things over time? How does that?
Yeah, and I think the clients are always surprised at how easily they can delegate their inbox. It's something that we try as a goal to eliminate at least 80% of that work from the client. And so you'll find that there's a lot of frequently asked questions, common responses, that sort of thing that comes in. And even just having a VA to be able to craft professional, well-written, warm and friendly responses rather than you just being able to fire off a word or two to someone, just can help elevate, even your personal brand. So that's important too.
Now, is the outside of like inbox management, are there any other areas that typically you see businesses in where you're almost like, I want to like I know you have this service that you're using from us right now, but like we could really help you out in this area, and so many other people struggle. Now, are there any certain niches like that?
Yeah, I think there's a few actually. So one thing that clients will tend to do is want to hold their client service, close to the vest. But as far as, onboarding clients, sending bills to clients and customers, that sort of thing, that's something that is very easy to delegate because it's a repeatable process. You're always going to onboard a client in the same way, send them the same forms, take them through the same process. And that's something that I always encourage clients to outsource to us or outsource to their VA, because it takes a ton of time away from the client, and they can spend that time growing their business.
So now let's say I hire a VA and I'm not having the most enjoyable experience with it, or I don't think things are being done quick enough, or there's a lot of errors going on. How are those things handled on your end? And I guess is that more of a role that you then play on a day-to-day basis, kind of managing those sorts of things?
Yeah. So personally for us, it's something that we try to head off at the pass. So when we match our virtual assistants up to our clients, we have a process for that. There's about 12 or 13 questions that we ask that's about a client's working style, who they work best with, who they don't work best with, those sort of nuances in how they work. And so we try to match up based on not only skill set, but also on personality, working style, work behavior, so that it's a good fit. So if you're someone that is not very detail oriented and you're more big picture and you tend to be a little bit scattered, you would benefit most from working with a VA who's very detail oriented, into that nitty gritty stuff and can develop a process from a big idea. And so we match up based on that. So those instances are rare, but of course, when they do happen, then we go back to the drawing board and rematch.
So then what's your role kind of day to day, big picture, as the president? What do you do? And tell us kind of a little bit like how you got there, because you've been doing this for a long time. I assume you didn't start as the president, or maybe you did.
Well, I did actually. When I started the business, I knew that at the time my aunt was a life coach and she had a virtual assistant, and I thought that the concept of it sounded really neat, but there were a few things I thought that could be done a little bit better. At the time I had just finished my MBA about a year before, so I was really into looking at business process improvement. And so from the outset, I started working with other VAs and kind of building a network of VAs so we could have a team approach with clients. And I would handle things that were in my area of expertise, and then, of course, they would handle their specialization areas. Now I no longer work directly with any clients on any one-to-one type of work, but I do more account management. I have calls with prospective clients. And then, of course, I help manage the team as well. Although I do have 2 team managers that manage the team on a daily basis, but I'm involved in that as well.
How many VAs do you guys have?
64.
64?
Yeah.
Wow. And do you have anyone who's been with you since like day one or since like the very beginning?
I have 2 that have been with me since the very beginning. So that's been great because they've seen, all of the changes. They've, been with me the whole time. And it's great to have those working relationships and have worked with them for so long.
So maybe, can we dive back into just maybe a little bit of like the different services that you guys offer? So, I mean, obviously you guys see like some of the social media in the inbox, but what are some of the things that maybe you wouldn't think of that a virtual assistant could help you with that you could? I think I saw like, for instance, on one thing you guys listed was like video editing.
Yep.
And I was like, I would never think for like video editing.
Right. Yeah. Video editing is a big one. Podcasts are another one. So there's obviously a tremendous value in hosting your own podcast. And so that's something that VAs will help with in terms of helping to get guests, helping with the tech aspect of it, the promotion of it. VAs can also do things like competitive analysis, SWOT analysis on your competitors, and just kind of what's happening in the market, and help really develop new lines of business for you too, if you're looking into market research and thinking about how to shape and mold your business going forward. So those are some things that I think that people don't always think of a VA for, but that are, very valuable tasks.
And then so how are those tasks billed, and how how does it work? Is it something we pay up front for a certain amount of hours, and then those kind of depreciate as the work's done?
Yeah.
How does that process work?
That's exactly right. And so we bill everything in 1 minute increments. So if we are answering an email for you and it takes us 4 minutes to do that, then you're billed for 4 minutes. And then we send our clients weekly time reports. That's a sort of a dashboard view of the time that's been spent, what it's been spent on, and listing the task. And so clients can really see exactly what they're paying for, and make sure that it has a good ROI for them as well.
So now, how do you so the tasks that are assigned, is that actual work time, or is that like a calculated work time? Like I think about like a mechanic, they're like changing out this part will be 2 hours of labor. Whether it takes them an hour or 4 hours, they're going to charge you usually for 2 hours of labor.
No, so it's actual work time. So we will always give estimates if a client's not sure, of how long something will take, which sometimes they aren't. So a client might say, write 3 blog posts of 500 words each, but they don't know how long that's going to take. So we'll say, okay, it's going to take 3 hours, and we'll do like a not to exceed estimate there. But if it takes, 2 hours and 32 minutes, then they're billed for 2 hours and 32 minutes.
Gotcha. And then I would assume, again, excuse my ignorance, but I would assume that the pricing would be highly based on the level of intricacy. Like inbox management is probably cheaper than video editing, I would assume.
We do everything in a flat rate.
Really?
Yeah. So everything that we do is between 35 and 38 per hour, just depending on the amount of hours that clients use. So the more hours they use, the lower the price. But we do that. It's just, simpler for the client. It's simpler for the billing. And actually most VA companies do it like that, a flat rate.
Okay.
There are some that will do like an admin rate versus a specialization rate for social media or something like that. But the majority will all charge a flat rate.
Wow. Yeah, I that's kind of mind blowing. I thought for sure
you learned something new.
Rates. Yeah. What's kind of been your favorite part of this journey the last 12 years, and now that you've kind of taken a step back from the day-to-day one-on-one aspect of it, what's your big kind of takeaway that you kind of like to look back on?
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting to work with entrepreneurs. So I've got to work with all different industries, from someone who's starting out to someone that's been in the business for 20 or 30 years, and they're trying to pivot and modernize their business. But I love having that hand in their business and giving them back that time so that they can work on growing their business, or maybe they just want the time back for personal reasons, to spend more time with their family or to travel, that sort of thing. So it's just nice to be able to give people back that time.
So in this whole process too, you've been able to craft, or I should say author, 2 books as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
So can you tell I'm always so curious about like people that write books. I think it's the craziest thing in the world. Like outside of like a fiction book, but I'm just like the idea of like I'm just going to sit down and just start putting this information on paper. To me, just sounds like so overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, so what comes first? Are you like, I'm going to write a book and then I need to come up with an idea? Or are you like, I have an idea. Oh, I should write a book.
Great question. So the first book, Inspired Entrepreneurs, I was approached to do by the publisher. And they were looking specifically for female entrepreneurs that were starting businesses at the time of, again, the Great Recession. And so that's what really gave me the writing bug after doing that. I was really apprehensive about doing it. I hadn't done any professional writing before. They did hook me up with an editor, and after that, I just loved it. And then I thought, to take that and go to the next part for me, which was writing my own book, independently. And that was just really a collection of lessons that I learned from clients and from working with so many different businesses over the years.
Where did the name come from? What is it? Is it closing deals, wearing high heels? I'm sorry, what is
How to wheel and deal in high heels. And that,
where did the name come from?
that came from a friend, actually, when we were just talking about the book, and she was saying that always, the way that title sounded always reminded her of me. And so it came from that. I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't.
Now that's like when I read that, I was like I kind of like stopped my tracks and I was like, that's a good title.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
that's
I
a
wish I
great
could take
title.
credit for it.
Like, like if I was sporting some high heels, like that would for sure be like right up my alley. Might still be up my alley.
Right.
So, what have you seen? You have 64 VAs underneath you. Like what's the kind of like the biggest challenge that you face day to day? Like, do you have a VA to help you manage your VAs? Like, what sort of like growth challenges do you have with that many people underneath you?
Yeah. So, now there's a lot of talk about people having trouble finding staff, that there's a shortage of staff just across the country. I haven't found that that's been a challenge for us. I think for a few reasons. One is that we do hire our VAs as employees, which is not common in the industry. Most will hire as freelancers or 1099s, but we're able to give that stability and the salary and benefits, et cetera. And so that hasn't been a challenge for us. I think for me, it's always been, having my great VAs and moving them up into management positions as we grow has been my strategy. But I have two VAs in management positions now, and because they're in management, they've had to let go of their clients, or most of their clients anyway. And so that's a challenge because the clients always want to, stay with them. And it's kind of, walking that fine line between the growth and progress.
Yeah, it's so hard sometimes, like you have your best employees and you don't want to pull them out of the role that they're in because you're killing it there. And then I always get scared. I'm like, what if I take them out of this role and I put them in a different role and they're not,
and they're
not.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same token, like you'll never know if you don't find out. And like, that's your job to provide opportunities. And, but I feel your pain there. So I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. When they're such a rock star at what they do, and you want that to translate to, to management and to growth in the company. But it's hard. It's a risk.
Right.
But so far it's always worked out for me.
So what about, like work-life balance? You feel like you have a good work-life balance, or are you like constantly kind of working and that's just the kind of person that you are? How do you like to manage your time?
Yeah, I feel like I'm sort of always working. I think for most people now, with technology being so accessible, that, most of us are always feeling that way. We always have our phones with us. Just last week, I was on vacation in the Great Smoky Mountains with my family, but I still had my laptop and I was still working. But I think that for me, that is work-life balance. So for me, being able to work anywhere and still be able to enjoy vacation with my family and work in the downtime, that's been great for me. So while some people might look at that and say, like, oh gosh, you were working on vacation, I really feel like that's where the balance comes in for me.
Yeah, I describe it as like driving down a highway. Like, I'm driving 45 miles an hour down a highway 7 days a week, while some people are driving 110 Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday. And it's just like, if you think about it in terms of a car, like that's real, there's a lot of wear and tear on that. You get real poor gas mileage. You get a lot better gas mileage and a lot less wear and tear in your vehicle doing this slow, steady burn.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I mean, I work every day, like 7 days a week, like you said, but I think also when you love what you do, I never dread going to work, or I never dread, having to pick up the phone and call a client or do anything like that. It's exciting for me and I love it, so it doesn't feel like a burden to me.
What would you do if, let's just say, someone bought your company tomorrow, even though you're not selling? But let's just say someone bought it and you were like, all right, now I need to find something new. Do you have like anything you've ever wanted to pursue and like where if you're like, I have this ball of free time, now I can finally go after this or start a different type of company, what would you do?
Yeah, I think I would stay in some form working with entrepreneurs and small business owners because I've learned so much from them from the years, and I've learned what works and what doesn't work. So I would have to say staying in some type of field where I can work closely with them every day.
Gotcha. What do you think is like the number one kind of like productivity thing that you guys bring to the table for entrepreneurs? Is it like the free time that you free up for them? Is it maybe the person the VA who's actually executing the work has a greater knowledge base for it, so it'll be executed it'll be executed better? What do you think is the greatest value that you guys bring in terms of those sorts of things?
Yeah. So initially, I think the first thing is the time. So that's just a very, easy one-to-one exchange. If we're saving you 5 hours of time a day, you're getting 5 hours of time back in your day. But as far as long-term, I think the value really comes from having someone who's an expert in their field and being able to elevate your business, whether that's, elevating your social media or your blog posts or your website or just even the way that you communicate with your clients. And having someone else who has an expertise there, bring that in. I think that makes the biggest difference long term.
And then what would you say if someone was going to hire a VA? They should obviously go to Virtual Assist USA and check them out. But let's say they're either looking at another company because they're not super well versed, or maybe they're currently working with a VA company. Are there any red flags that you see a lot of times other companies are doing? You're like, man, we do this so much better, or you're falling into the classic trap of whatever they're offering. Are there any sorts of things that people need to watch out for?
Yeah, so I think one thing that's really important is that clients get very attached to their VAs because they work with them so closely. And so something that you'd want to look at if you're hiring a VA is that company's retention or their turnover rate. So are they, obviously you can't force somebody to stay employed somewhere, but how is that turnover looking? Because if you have to switch VAs, 5 or 6 times in a year, you're not really getting the value out of that. You have to keep onboarding them. You have to keep, ramping someone up. It can be really chaotic. So that's something that I think is really important to look at. For us, one of the ways that we improve retention is offering the full-time job with the benefits. That might not be what others do, but it's important to ask that. So I would ask someone, what's your turnover rate and what do you do to improve retention and to keep your employees happy and keep them here and keep them growing? Because once you do get matched with a VA that's a great fit for you, you want to stay working with them.
And then what do you think is the biggest thing that separates you from other VA firms?
I think one of the things is, of course, our retention, but also we only hire VAs, as I mentioned, with 10 years of experience. And so this isn't, for those VAs, a transient job. This isn't a part-time gig. It's not something that they're kind of testing out in between careers. This is their career. Their specialization is what they do day in and day out. They're passionate about it. And having that type of person on your side is really important.
Those are all good points. I think there's a lot of food for thought there for people.
Yes.
As we wrap up here, I want to ask you a few questions. We do this thing called Real Talk Rapid Fire.
Okay.
Where I'm going to fire you a bunch of questions. They're real easy. Don't freak out. Just don't overthink it and don't underthink it. All right?
Okay. All
right, here we go. Netflix or Hulu?
Oh, Hulu.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Do you like your pizza cut in triangles or squares?
Squares.
Microsoft or Apple?
Apple.
Good answer. What was your first car?
What was my? Oh, it was a terrible car. It was an '88 Honda. And it was like all different colors because it had so many extra parts.
What was your first job?
Babysitting.
What was your worst job?
Oh, I had this job when I was in grad school where I had to give out the samples at the grocery stores. And I had to give out the one product with strawberries, and they had us dressed as farmers. So I had like a straw hat and fake freckles on, and I had to do that while handing out samples of strawberries. And I saw people I knew. It was humiliating.
Oh, God. What's your favorite city in America?
I'd have to say where I live, Pittsburgh.
Okay. Favorite band?
Oh, the Black Crowes.
Favorite book?
Little Women.
Will you come back in 100 episodes and check back in with us, give us some updates, and share some more truth bombs on us?
Yes, I would love to.
Cool. We really appreciate that. I want to thank you so much for your time today. If you could, anything else you want to add about the services that you guys offer, how people can get a hold of you, we'll put everything in the description as well, but website, blog, whatever, give us the whole spiel.
Yeah, they can go to Virtual Assist USA, and there's some more information on there, as well as a form to fill out if someone's interested, and if they are, they end up talking directly to me, so I answer all those emails and phone calls, and I'd be happy just to talk more about services.
Sweet. Well, you guys heard it here first. For everyone out there, if you're still listening to this point, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the rate button, hit all the buttons except the one with the thumbs down. But all of the buttons, hit those. Thank you so much for your guys' time today. It's a rough world out there, so get yourself a VA and step your game up. Until next time, guys, we're out.
You've been listening to Real Talk with Mason. Make sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. We hope you've had fun. We know we did, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with Mason on Instagram at Real Talk with Mason. Walter Badgett once said, "The greatest pleasure in life is doing what people say you cannot do." And we tend to agree. Till next time.